the front porch of Annie Abrams' Little Rock home. The ABC Morning Show surprised Abrams with a yard full of admirers, a street sign with her name on it presented by Little Rock City Manager Bruce Moore, and a donation from Wells Fargo to the Annie Abrams Living Legacy Award Scholarship at Ouachita Baptist University. Abrams is a beloved educator and Little Rock icon, known for opening doors for black children when she helped integrate Little Rock Central High School. Abrams was also instrumental in renaming streets in Little Rock for black leaders Daisy Bates, Charles Busey, and Martin Luther King Jr. A mother of four, the first black president of the Central High PTA, and a lifelong community activist, Abrams said service is, quote, the rent you pay to stay on God's earth. Honey, listen, you can't beat giving to God's children, she told ABC News correspondent Janai Norman Tuesday morning. I wasn't a millionaire, but I gave away a lot of love. The street sign with Abrams' name on it brought to mind a minor flap in 2011 when a push to name a street after Abrams turned messy, updating maps and GPS systems to reflect the name change is a big chore. Opponents raised and complained, and Abrams asked that the request to name the street in her honor be withdrawn rather than fuss about it. But she has it now, so good for her. Of course, Little Rock Central High School, those iconic images, those pictures of people holding those signs with those horrible things written on it, yelling at a small black child who just wanted to go to school, and the 101st Airborne having to escort her in and out of the building. There's people in those photos holding those signs that are still alive. We hope they've changed their ways. But history is never as far away as we think it is, and human nature is undefeated. We always have to work hard to overcome the worst angels of our nature to get what Lincoln called the better angels of our nature. That'll do it for Heard Tell today. However, you're watching on YouTube or the Big Talkers Facebook page or listening any of the podcasting platforms page, we sure appreciate you listening and joining us. However you're doing that, whatever platform you are, do us a favor. There's usually a comment and a ratings option on those platforms. If you could give us a good rating, if you could leave a comment, we'd sure appreciate it. We'll try to reply to all the comments we see. That's a small thing that you can do. It only costs you a click, but it's a big deal to us. We sure appreciate it. Really want to do us a solid? All those platforms also have a share button. You can put us on your social media, let people know what we're doing, how we're doing it, and that it's worth their time. We'd sure appreciate it. We'll keep doing it as long as you keep watching and listening and interacting. You want to get a hold of the show, heardtellshow@gmail.com. Send us an email, questions, epistles, comments, whatever you got. Love to hear from you, get back to you. A couple people have reached out about things. We put them on the show. We even covered topics on the show that people have asked about. Also on the Twitter at HeardTellShow. You can get a hold of us that way, follow us that way. You'll also get updates about what's going on with the show. My Twitter handle, 4 for the Fire, and our guest Twitter handles are always on the lower third graphics during the show. You can find their information there. Make sure you follow them, support them, and keep them in your information rotation. So until we talk again tomorrow, you and yours be well. We hope you're well fed. We'll talk to you tomorrow for more Heard Tell.
All the music on Heard Tell is provided under a Creative Content license from monstercat.com.
Hey, I'm Yael Osaski.
And I'm David Clement.
We're the host of Consumer Choice Radio, broadcasting every Saturday at 10 a.m. here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Consumer Choice Radio is a weekly conversation featuring the latest news, interviews, and expert analysis that covers consumer topics from around the world.
ConsumerChoiceRadio.com.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. The Pentagon says President Joe Biden is sending about 2,000 troops from Fort Bragg to Poland and Germany this week. About 1,000 of those troops will be based in Germany to Romania. The military deployments come as talks have stalled with Russia over its military buildup at Ukraine's borders. The president says he will not put American troops in Ukraine to fight any Russian attack, but the U.S. is supplying Ukraine with weapons to defend itself. Some scientists are now warning about the spread of Omicron and a potentially new variant, BA.2. As of now, infectious disease experts have not officially separated BA.2 from Omicron in the way that Omicron is considered a totally separate strain of COVID from Delta. While state and federal health officials continue to emphasize testing, vaccines, and boosters, Novant Health infectious disease expert Dr. David Priest says vaccines may be the most important component in fighting Omicron. Priest says the number of people who are vaccinated and looking to get booster shots has leveled off. Offshore wind is a big topic of discussion in many of our coastal beach towns. Now the state's spotlight will shine on the Cape Fear today. Governor Roy Cooper will deliver remarks at the inaugural meeting of the NC Task Force for Offshore Wind Economic Resource Strategies happening later today. The issue is divisive locally. The Brunswick County Board of Commissioners unanimously voting in August on a resolution expressing disapproval of putting wind turbines off the county shoreline. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has released nominees for the class of 2022. They include Dolly Parton, A Tribe Called Quest, Beck, Devo, Duran Duran, Lionel Richie, Carly Simon, and Eminem. Artists or groups who can only be considered if their first commercial recording was released at least 25 years ago. Inductees will be announced in May. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast, and we are going to be seeing mostly cloudy skies throughout the day today, but that's not going to stop us from jumping into the low 70s if you're inland of the coast. Closer to the immediate coastline, temperatures should rise into the middle and the upper 60s, well above the average for this time of year. And then overnight tonight, we could see a small chance for an isolated shower or two as our temperatures drop down to the upper 50s and the low 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
MusicRewind.com and Mantovani, the legendary composer and conductor, along with his orchestra, bring you an amazing compilation of timeless instrumental hits on 2 CDs. Get Mantovani Moon River, a collection of 50 of his most popular recordings for the amazingly low price of $17.98 at MusicRewind.com or call 800-206-5002. Order now and receive a bonus of reduced shipping. Just enter or mention coupon code SONG55. That's MusicRewind.com or call 800-206-5002. Don't forget coupon code SONG55 for reduced shipping. This offer is available for a limited time to U.S. residents only and cannot be combined with any other offer.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Buenos días. ¿Qué pasa, mis primos? Un día que linda. Vamos, vamos, ándale. Los pájaros cantan alegría. Vamos. And for the rest of y'all can just relax. I may not speak other languages fluently, but every now and again, I like to practice. I mean, cultural appropriation is part of my national heritage, is it not? Just want to give everybody a chance to understand that it's time to get up, get moving, get on up out the door, start today, do your thing, and let the most unusual, unlike every other kind of radio program on the planet, get you there. A bit of a station-based PSA. If you have a car with Bluetooth and you have a cell phone with Bluetooth and internet, you can use the Big Talker app to Bluetooth to your car so you can listen to the Asylum wherever you're driving. Even if it's not in Brunswick County, you can now drive across all the counties and still listen to your favorite program, or, well, at least mine, on the Big Talker. All of them, in fact, are there. All Things Brunswick, Heard Tell, Chad Adams Show when it gets rolling again, Yael's show, Consumer Choice Radio, all of them. The entire 24/7 run of the Big Talker Online is available on your iPhone app, Android app, and can be Bluetooth to your car so you can enjoy driving around like you do with Spotify if you still have an account. Now, I've been teasing a bit of an issue since we first hijacked the station and brought it to my garage. And I hope next week to have a fantastic guest from Seattle, Washington, with us to discuss some options and solutions that have worked elsewhere. Right now, what seems to be a big deal in the news is the football game happening in Los Angeles, just south of where my anticipated guest is residing. This is coming from cityjournal.org, city-journal.org out of Los Angeles. And apparently this football game coming up is a pretty big deal. It's so big of a deal that they will overrun several thousand people who don't have anywhere to go. What I should do, man, this early morning stuff is hard to get used to. What I should do is let the article speak for itself, and we will start with the headline. LA's billion-dollar failure. Okay, so to tie it together and sort of bring you into speed, a few years ago, 2014, Vertex rail car came to town. Pat McCrory's little hero moment. The Vertex rail car came to town, burned about $600,000 of North Carolina money through the DOT and other agencies, state monies. Ended up with a $45 million bankruptcy lawsuit, and the 1,300 jobs never materialized. We got boned. Now we have a $60 million deal on the table in the form of the Community Violence Action Plan, much of which sounds good but doesn't make sense. And the big one that really got my attention is the supersonic aircraft manufacturing plant that North Carolina is about to toss $100 million into. Literally, $100 million. So now we're going to go to L.A., and we're going to feature their article, LA's billion-dollar failure. Misguided policy and poor financial management have marked the performance of the city's well-funded Homelessness Services Authority. Let me do that again. Misguided policy and poor financial management have marked the performance of the city's well-funded Homelessness Services Authority. So there's no shortage of money. Money is not the problem. They threw money at these people. Per the article, who in their right mind would continue to spend $1 billion annually for a failing product? North Carolina would. Yeah, that's how effective our education is. We'll throw $600,000 at Vertex Rail, and then we'll turn right around and dump money into Boom Supersonic. Yeah. If it doesn't work in Los Angeles, come here. We'll give you money. We'll try it out. Who in the right mind would continue to spend $1 billion annually for a failing product? 2 Los Angeles City Council members asked that question recently while introducing a motion for the city to withdraw from the Los Angeles Homelessness Services Authority. The city pays LASA nearly $300 million a year to administer homelessness services on its behalf, yet the agency is unwilling to provide taxpayers or city departments basic information about its activities, such as line item scope of services or verifiable data on program outcomes. The agency receives nearly $1 billion in annual funding from federal, state, county, and city sources. So that's just the first paragraph of the story. And it kind of sets up the picture that, A, we have a problem. B, we put something in place to try to solve that problem. C, it took our money. It's like that really sketch vending machine at the bus stop. Sodas are only 30 cents. Took your money, left you not much of anything, huh? $1 billion annually from federal, state, county, and city sources. This is not an underfunded nonprofit. This is a well-funded nonprofit. Continuing. LAHSA's core function is to provide street-level outreach to the homeless population in the greater LA area, ensuring that they receive resources, shelter, and eventually permanent supportive housing with comprehensive services. Yet, even with its vast budget, the agency is falling short. According to a 2019 audit from City Controller, LAHSA has failed to meet 5 outreach targets and in some cases has reported a mere 4% success rate, reaching only dozens of people in need as measured against the tens of thousands of homeless living in encampments scattered across city and county streets, freeway underpasses, parks, and community spaces. 4% success rate. $1 billion a year, $300 million coming from Los Angeles itself. Just the city is paying $300,000. Vertex Rail, $300,000 plus $20,000 plus 10, made a total of $600,000. Or 300 plus 200 plus the 100. Because it was like the city and then the DOT and then something else, but it added up to around $600,000. How is that? Continuing, LAHSA's failures are not the result of understaffing or underfunding in light of the surge of the homeless population in recent years. According to its own annual count from 2015 to 2020, the number of homeless in Los Angeles grew steadily from 41.174 thousand to 63,706. 41,000 to 63, almost 64,000, an increase of 55%. Don't trust that number. Yet during that 5-year period, the agency's annual payroll rose even faster, from $7.2 million in 2015 to $36.8 million, 41% increase. That is a massive increase. This massive increase hasn't raised more flags about financial mismanagement is testament to the power of the homeless industrial complex in LA. Let's unpack that a little bit. These increases, when written as a percentage, is not entirely accurate or a sensible metric. Depending on which way you look at the equation, 55% is way too much or not enough. But still, from 41.1 to 63.7, while the money payroll goes from 7.2 million to 36.8 million in the same 5 years. Now, I understand as your needs grow, your budget would need to be growing, but that's just payroll. I don't know if they hired anybody additional yet. All we know is that the payroll in 5 years went from $7 to $36 million out of a $1 billion annual budget to solve a problem. Recently, Los Angeles County Supervisor nominated President and Executive of Union Rescue Mission on Skid Row as a commissioner to LAHSA. Many saw the appointment as an attempt to shake up homelessness policy, which still aligns with the federally mandated housing first approach that identifies the primary problem as housing rather than mental health or drug addictions. The new nominee, Mr. Bales, Reverend Bales, has openly criticized this policy particularly because it fails to mandate or provide services to meet abstinence and sobriety requirements. A significant percentage of those who receive housing services end up back on the streets. Over the holidays, the author of this article joined Reverend Bales and volunteered at the URM, which is the Union Rescue Mission, which is located in downtown LA. Skid Row, as the neighborhood is known, has the highest concentration of people experiencing homelessness in the U.S. An estimated 5,000 to 8,000 people live on the streets in an area almost 3/4 miles, filled with drugs, drinking, human trafficking, violence, rape, murder, hourly overdose, and despair. On the author's arrival at 5 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning, many were already openly using and buying drugs from street gang dealers. Now, founded in 1891 to dispense food and clothing from gospel wagons, the Union Rescue Mission is a privately funded provider of homeless services that today occupies a 5-story building in the heart of Skid Row. It practices a faith-based recovery model, offering immediate food and shelter, healthcare, and life skills training for up to 1,000 daily requirements. The URM requires abstinence, order, and sobriety. These requirements make it ineligible for federal money, but it receives $18 million per year in private donations. And because they care about the URM requires abstinence, order, and sobriety, makes it ineligible for federal funds. Why? If we're going to depend on nonprofits, we need to support nonprofits. This is in LA, so it's not our problem, right? Well, the way North Carolina is going with Vertex Rail and Boom Supersonic, this may be the way they try to solve the housing crisis by throwing, $100 million at it and watching nothing but the payroll go up. Continuing, an eternal optimist and man of faith, Reverend Bales lost his lower right leg to flesh-eating infections he acquired while caring for the homeless on the streets of Skid Row. He thus personifies sacrificial self-giving, but his philosophy comes with rules and an expectation of lawful behavior from those he helps. Meals are scheduled by groups based on level of need, gender, and family status, and the URM requires sobriety. It doesn't even serve coffee at breakfast, as caffeine could have a negative effect on some of its residents. This is just one of the nonprofits that's not supported by the very government that requires their services to keep this thing from completely falling apart. Continuing, it's unclear how much power Reverend Bales will have as a commissioner when it comes to revising the agency's failed housing first policy. The LAHSA Commission, which has authority to make financial planning and program policies, has 10 members, 5 appointed by county supervisors, the other 5 by the mayor and city council. Several commissioners differ with Reverend Bales on strategy, though none have spoken out against him. The president and chairman of the board of Share Collaborative Housing, a public-private partnership providing homeless services, believes that Reverend Bales will say things publicly that no other service provider or LAHSA commissioner would. He describes Reverend Bales as a true spiritual warrior on the streets of LA, devoid of ego, who acts in a spiritual and humanitarian capacity. The appointment of Reverend Bales may be a sign that she recognizes the system is broken and in need of an outsider's perspective. Many believe that Reverend Bales will represent the interest of homeless individuals rather than those of the homeless service system. However things play out, it will be people like Reverend Andy Bales and privately funded faith-based organizations such as the Union Rescue Mission that will lead LA out of this humanitarian crisis, not the government. But the government is supposed to be a way of managing the resources for the community. The problem is, with $1 billion yearly budget, $1 billion per year, and the only thing that they see going up, the only numbers they see going up, are the number of homeless and the amount of payroll. Is it any surprise that a top-heavy, misfunded system, agency, alignment, what do you want to call it, in their case, the Homelessness Services Authority already implies power, so we're already on the wrong side of this equation. If you're in this for power, you're in the wrong game. You're supposed to be in this for the community. We are supposed to be planting the trees that our grandchildren will undoubtedly carve their initials into. Which begs the question why so many people carry knives on their dates when visiting a park. This is who we are as a species. All of it. Every bit of it is who we are. So in light of the upcoming fancy football game thing, $1 billion could buy a lot of hotel rooms for the week so you could get rid of all these people so that they're not in the public eye when everybody goes to buy their Chargers t-shirts or whatever. So I'm all for looking at other options and solutions and plans and programs that other communities have tried or have integrated. And I have to say there's going to be options good and bad, some that worked, some that didn't work. And if they've been doing this for at least 7 years, because this story only goes 2015 to 2020, $1 billion a year, and the only thing going up is the salary. So 7 million to 36. 7 and 7 is 14, 28. That's 4 times as much. So did they just double the staff and pay everybody with non-marketable skills? Is that what happened? Near as I can tell. This is a conversation that has continued on this program, even before my arrival, that fiscal responsibility is something we need to pay more attention to. Personal responsibility is another one. There's a lot of elements at play here, a lot of components. Good morning. Which America? North, South, Central? North America. We're going to limit it to North America. Yeah, screw the rest of you guys. Oh, yeah, they're having their best summer ever, and here we are. That was fun. But as we've discussed before, and Andrew Donaldson has much better reins on this, is the fiscal responsibility. We do not do fiscal background checks on the people going into office, but we do when they get regular jobs, you know? And the personal behaviors, usually the most aberrant sexual behaviors, are coming from the very people voting for things like anti-gay relationship marriage status. And then they're caught in a hotel room with an underage boy. I mean, there's a lot that needs to be held to account with greater recourse. There has been no recourse on the insanity that Pat McCrory, who is currently running for senator, think about that. McCrory is the genius that brought us Vertex Rail and China right here into North Carolina. For those of you not familiar, Vertex Rail Car was to build tankers to go on the rails here in North Carolina. Turns out the majority stakeholder in that company was China. And now the dude is facing, the CEO is facing a $45 million bankruptcy suit. I don't know what's going on with that, but the 1,300 jobs that Pat McCrory promised us, along with Vertex Partnership, have yet to materialize. And yet we threw $600,000 at that vapor project, vaporware, that promise. And, of course, everybody at the gig, everybody working at Vertex got snookered into painting some houses, which, you know, they were volunteering to help another nonprofit, and it was beautiful, and it's a heartwarming story, but it was still kind of underhanded, if you think about it. And it continues, right? So North Carolina, or Wilmington at least, has, I don't know if you would call it a mild, but it's certainly a noticeable homelessness problem on 3rd Street in front of the library. The gardens down there have become like the homeless encampment for the area. And I'm sure we have some nonprofit agencies, organizations, and services in the area that could help prevent that. And of course, in the case of many of these people, the whole idea is they don't want to be sober. They don't want to get clean. So we can create a program, much as I agree with Reverend Bales, that I would like it to be a clean and sober environment, encouraging clean and sober living, and even removes these people from the general population until they are clean and sober and are able to walk the way to work, get to work, come home from work, whatever, without getting sidetracked, distracted, relapsing. Which is why some of these other programs that I've looked into, they actually have on-site support meetings and support staff 24/7. So if you freak out and start having an issue or bad thoughts at 3 in the morning, there's somebody there to help you out. There's somebody there to talk to. So it may come down to finding a new way to do this thing. And of course, I still have trouble letting go of the punitive model that, hey, if you come into this program, we can get you clean, sober, fed, dressed, employed, trained. But the moment you screw up and do drugs or whatever, we're going to throw you in a different program. One where you never see the light of day. Because a lot of these people want their freedom, but don't understand that there's a responsibility to go with that freedom. So if you want to be able to get jacked on a 12-pack of beer at the end of the week, you got to earn that week first. I mean, there's got to be a few million people that do exactly that. They do their job during the week, and on Friday they get absolutely twisted. Sometimes it leads to bigger problems, but at least they're not homeless. They're not camped out in front of the library on 3rd Street begging people for $1 as they walk by. And it's not the dollar. We know that. There's much more involved than the $1. We have $1 billion a year getting pumped into one community in this country. And it's not making a dent. But somebody's getting rich. I mean, the salaries went up. Again, from 7 to 36, 7.2 million to nearly 37 million in 5 years. That's almost 100% a year. Meaning every year you add another $7.2 million to your payroll. That's not how we fix this problem. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been brought to my attention that we are at the bottom of the hour now, and it is time to take a news and weather break from our friends at WWAY. and a few words from our sponsors and supporters. Therefore, the Asylum will be right back on the Big Talker Online, so please don't go anywhere. Let us know that you're here. Click on that like, subscribe button, and tell your friends.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. The Pentagon says President Joe Biden is sending about 2,000 troops from Fort Bragg to Poland and Germany this week. About 1,000 of those troops will be based in Germany to Romania. The military deployments come as talks have stalled with Russia over its military buildup at Ukraine's borders. The president says he will not put American troops in Ukraine to fight any Russian attack, but the U.S. is supplying Ukraine with weapons to defend itself. Some scientists are now warning about the spread of Omicron and a potentially new variant, BA.2. As of now, infectious disease experts have not officially separated BA.2 from Omicron in the way that Omicron is considered a totally separate strain of COVID from Delta. While state and federal health officials continue to emphasize testing, vaccines, and boosters, Devon Health infectious disease expert Dr. David Priest says vaccines may be the most important component in fighting Omicron. Priest says the number of people who are vaccinated and looking to get booster shots has leveled off. Offshore wind is a big topic of discussion in many of our coastal beach towns. Now the state's spotlight will shine on the Cape Fear today. Governor Roy Cooper will deliver remarks at the inaugural meeting of the NC Task Force for Offshore Wind Economic Resource Strategies happening later today. The issue is divisive locally. The Brunswick County Board of Commissioners unanimously voting in August on a resolution expressing disapproval of putting wind turbines off the county shoreline. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has released nominees for the class of 2022. They include Dolly Parton, A Tribe Called Quest, Beck, Devo, Duran Duran, Lionel Richie, Carly Simon, and Eminem. Artists or groups who can only be considered if their first commercial recording was released at least 25 years ago. Inductees will be announced in May. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast, and we are going to be seeing mostly cloudy skies throughout the day today, but that's not going to stop us from jumping into the low 70s if you're inland of the coast. Closer to the immediate coastline, temperatures should rise into the middle and the upper 60s, well above the average for this time of year. And then overnight tonight, we could see a small chance for an isolated shower or two as our temperatures drop down to the upper 50s and the low 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Listen to Tom Goolsby on The Chad Adams Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
I'm Rob Renz, Marine Corps veteran, entrepreneur, and local business owner. Join me and my buddies on Monday from 6 to 7 for Signal Fire Radio, where we discuss how to successfully transition from the military and become a signal fire in your community. That's Signal Fire Radio, Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. on 106.7 The Big Talk.
Oh, you're waiting for me. Okay. Okay, yeah, I get it. There's a lot of moving parts here. Like realizing that I forgot to buy a phone card. So if anybody's trying to call me or text me, it's not going to work for a minute. Yeah. Because again, there's a lot of moving parts, and I just missed one. But not a lot of people call me. I'm not a famous, handy, friendly person. I'm too busy reading into other ideas and solutions and potentials and possibilities, only to discover that we are not the only community with these problems. In fact, just about every city with a McDonald's has a homeless problem. I'm not saying the two are correlated. I'm just saying cities big enough to have a McDonald's are big enough to have a homeless problem. And somewhere in the homeless problem is the broken give a crap thing, if that makes sense. Because there has to be a desire to not want to be homeless. And that pain has to be greater than the pain that's keeping a person homeless, like drug addiction or alcoholism or mental health. And at some point, they'll be more than happy to revise their behaviors, rethink their approach, and even make, the necessary adjustments in their lives. But Los Angeles County, the city of Los Angeles, North Carolina, or stop it, phone. I know this. Try that again. One of the richest cities in the United States, Los Angeles, has been hemorrhaging $1 billion a year for the past 7 years, 5 of which we have a bit of insight to. That throwing money at a problem does not fix the problem. Throwing money at a problem makes a bunch of people with no marketable skills rich and provides them with income and health care not available to most humans, most Americans. Therefore, I think that we should revise, we should supervise, we should oversee what's going on when we decide to throw $100 million at Boom Supersonic, $600,000 at Vertex Rail, $60 million at the Community Violence Action Plan. We're just throwing money at stuff from this magically approved budget. At least the Community Violence Action Plan had a few details as to what they're going to do with the money over the next few years. The least of which, of course, is education. If you're not surprised, should be. How's that for amazing? Or surprising? I mean, that is who we are paying for, paid by, paid into. And if Los Angeles is spending $1 billion a year, hemorrhaging, I guess is a better term, $1 billion a year, we need to rethink this. The city is paying nearly a third of that. The city pays the Los Angeles Homelessness Services Authority nearly $300 million a year to administer homelessness services on its behalf. Yet, the agency is unwilling to provide taxpayers or city departments basic information about its activities, such as a line item scope of services or verifiable data on program outcomes. The agency receives nearly $1 billion in annual funding from federal, state, counties, and city sources. $1 billion. Fiscal irresponsibility seems to be the hallmark of our elected leaders. And that's something that needs to change. Given that our inflation is going up 7 to 15% over the next few years, the cost of these services are going to be unattainable, certainly at a nonprofit level. So that increase in salaries is not an increase in service. It's just an increase of money being spent, which, when coupled with other programs like this use it or lose it federal money, that if you don't spend the money we give you, you don't get any more next year, is about as bass-ackwards as we can get. But this seems to be our standard policy anymore. That's not a logical financial policy to maintain. I mean, that's just, think about it. We are rewarding financial irresponsibility with greater financial gain. So the Community Violence Action Plan is not so much a reaction to the community violence here in Wilmington. It's more about what to do with the millions of dollars that we've been given, that if we don't use it on something, we're going to lose it and not get any more next year. This is certainly not a merit-based approach where, hey, here's $40 million. Let's see what you can do with it, how effective you can be. And if you get to the end and you've done amazing things and show great improvements and numbers and successes and verifiable data on program outcomes, and you still have $4 million, you should be rewarded for that. I don't know, maybe you get a special t-shirt or a commemorative plaque to hang on your wall. But no. That's not how we do it here in America. Here in America, we're stupid. Here in America, we just piss away money so that we can get more money. And we wonder why we're in debt to Saturn or Uranus or something. Because God knows where these trillions of dollars of debt, which is considered a credit from other countries that are willing to, bail us out? Like we bailed out the Wall Street and we bailed out the car companies? All of this is financial responsibility. And it should begin with government, and it shouldn't end with government. Los Angeles, going into the football game of the year, has $1 billion homelessness services authority, because keep in mind, it's about power, it's not about solutions. The authority rakes in $1 billion a year, paying out now in the neighborhood of $37 million in salaries, nearly $40 million in salaries out of $1 billion a year, and they can't seem to figure this out. That this massive increase in salary hasn't raised more red flags about financial mismanagement is testament to the power of the homeless industrial complex in Los Angeles. Now, I admit we're not as big as Los Angeles. But if you think that what's happening there can't happen here, you're wrong. I don't care who hears it, who says it, who doesn't like it, who doesn't agree with it. You're wrong. The scale may be smaller. We may only spend $60 million instead of $1 billion a year on our homelessness problem. But if the model is exactly the same, then all we're doing is paying a top-down administration to do absolutely nothing. A top-down bureaucracy to administer absolutely no effective service to the community in need. So we as voters need to come back around to our representatives and hold them to account as to their position in our community. Your job when elected as a representative of our community is to represent us. That if any senator makes, stupid amounts of money from their investments and such while in office, that money should go to their constituents. That's that new rule, that if you're going to benefit from being in office, your community benefits from you being in office. So yeah, your net worth can climb by 700% while you're in office, but you're going to be taxed 698% so that your community benefits like you did. I mean, as much as you love or hate Pelosi, the amount of money that she's generated does not necessarily fairly belong to her. We elected her to a position that allowed her to enrich herself. And as a result of that enrichment, the community should benefit. That's how it should work. This whole thing, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, is basically designed to ensure that we as a community are taken care of. Because we as the community are the power. So Homelessness Services Authority, Port Authority, authority is power. Do you have the authority to authorize? Do you have the power to authorize? Do you see how this works? But if we change the words so it doesn't start with such a bold power sound and call it an authority. And now we've moved it from the mundane to the administrative, into the bureaucratic. And now you can't question the billions of dollars you're pouring into this tank. And the only outcome you see are the increased salaries of the people administering this bureaucracy, but no real improvement at the street level. Trying to find the percentage of effectiveness. 4% success rate. According to a 2019 audit from City Controller, the LASA has failed to meet 5 outreach targets and in some cases has reported a mere 4% success rate, reaching only dozens of people in need as measured against the tens of thousands of homeless living in encampments scattered across the city and county streets, freeway underpasses, parks, and community spaces like the public library on 3rd Street in downtown Wilmington. So the problem is not unique to Wilmington or unique to Los Angeles. And the current modus operandi of solving this problem is throwing money at it. And Los Angeles has shown us that even with an insane budget of $1 billion a year, which could replace, if we had a budget of $1 billion a year, we could replace every bridge in this state. There are so many things we could do with $1 billion a year more efficiently. That Los Angeles, for all the wonderful things that people like about Los Angeles, they can't solve their homeless problem with $1 billion a year. I'm getting bent out of shape with this $100 million deal with Boom Supersonic, but I remember what happened with Vertex Rail. This is a continuing problem in North Carolina. And I'll just stop there. Everything from the county, the city, the county, to the state of North Carolina has an education problem that our legislatures can't seem to read comprehensionally, cannot comprehend what they're reading. Thank you. My brain doesn't have coffee yet. But that's how we're doing it. That's how we're running it. How's that grab you? So, again, $1 billion. So let's see what we can do with $60 million with the Community Violence Action Plan. setting up a new bureaucracy to be administered by people with no actual marketable skills. But hey, my cousin needs a job. Can we create a bureaucracy so we can get this person in there and increase his salary from 7 million to 36 million over the next 5 years? No other job has raises their income like that. I mean, that's a free ride in every aspect of the word. So North Carolina would do well to have somebody with intelligence and education to perform due diligence when looking at solutions, programs, and options. And to know that we are going to have these problems in our community. We already have them. And it may not be to the same scale of the thousands, 63.7 thousand homeless people in one city. We may only have 100. But it's still a problem. And if North Carolina wants to tout being so advanced and so, wonderful on so many different aspects, we could start with a simple little problem like that and show that for less than $1 billion a year, we could create an effective working solution. And some of the solutions that I have explored that do not include the Los Angeles Homelessness Services Authority, where people hold each other to account. And it becomes much more comfortable because somebody else who's been homeless talking to somebody who's homeless and saying, hey, quit doing that. You're being a jerk. Oh, wow, that's how I became homeless. Yeah, let's try to fix that. You help me, I help you, we get the hell out of here. I think accountability should be the new word. Fiscal accountability in our politicians, personal accountability in our communities. They even have a concept for it in Japan. It's called the societal eye. Here in America, we have absolutely no shame. None. We will do the most heinous stuff to each other in broad daylight, in the middle of the street. Proud as a peacock. Japanese culture is like, yeah, we like being, individuals. We like having our own expressions, but we don't like being jerks to each other, and we don't like seeing other people being jerks. The relationship with the police in Japan is radically different than their relationship. Now, this is coming from the natives, the people that were born, grew up in Japan, not the white people that came from America and went to live in Japan. Foreigners are not well loved. I mean, xenophobia is not quite the term, but they're definitely more friendly to natives than they are to foreigners. Straight up. But they also don't have the litter problem. Like, to them, the thought of dropping smoking is not a problem, but dropping your butt on the ground would just be like the biggest insult ever. And I think we could use a little bit of that in our culture. It's how we need to see ourselves as a community of human beings, not rats living on this planet, trying to chew each other up. That $1 billion a year in Los Angeles could obviously be spent more efficiently to help even more people than setting up a bureaucracy that requires such brutal administration. But if they're hemorrhaging $1 billion a year for 64,000 homeless people, you could almost give them all $4,000 a year and say, have at it. But for the cost of a few thousand, you could actually build a homeless community, install some support services and staff, hold each other to account directly where they are. Boom. The problem solves itself. But these are not the discussions that we have. The discussions we have are, here's $60 million that we have to spend or we don't get any more money. Do whatever you want with it. Build a grocery store. I don't care. And we'll just call it a, I don't know, what's a good name? Community Violence Action Plan. Yeah. Oh, and that $60 million is going to require some administration. So let's pile, a couple layers of bureaucracy on there and have some fun. Now, $1 billion for that program. How much money is the NFL's game expected to bring in? Let's ask Google. Ooh, how much money will the Super Bowl bring to LA? The Super Bowl will generate up to $477.5 million in benefits, coming from an estimated 150,000 out-of-town visitors who are expected to spend up to $350 per night on hotel rooms and $300 a day on tourist stuff. One event, $500,000. Excuse me. One event, $500 million. In one day, or for one event, the Super Bowl alone will generate nearly $500 million in benefits to the community. So yeah, it makes sense to get your homeless people out of that area. They're the ones sucking up $1 billion for the year. These are insane amounts of money. And it's being handled by people you wouldn't trust to run the cash register at the thrift store. Yeah, we voted them into office to handle all the money that we've generated for our community, and we're going to spend it on things like, hey, my buddy's got a supersonic airplane he wants to build. If you don't have a market, you don't have a product, what you have is a hobby. Don't make us pay for your hobby. That's all I'm asking. While we're trying to stay alive out here in this crazy world, we'll be right back on the Asylum on the Big Talker Online.
Keeping Charlotte informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Tune in to the WWAY News at 6 p.m.
Thank you for joining us tonight for your News at 6. I'm Hannah Patrick.
I'm Randy Aldridge. We want to get straight to our WWAY team coverage of last night.
For the biggest and most compelling stories that make a difference.
On the scene shortly after the blaze began and has the story now.
Leland is one of the fastest growing towns in the country.
First court appearance this morning in Pender County.
WWAY News at 6 p.m. This is the place.
I'm State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better state. We are one of the fastest growing and most reviewed insurance agencies in Wilmington. That's because our customers love the personalized attention that we give to you. Let us help you get to a better state by visiting our website at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. The Pentagon says President Joe Biden is sending about 2,000 troops from Fort Bragg to Poland and Germany this week. About 1,000 of those troops will be based in Germany to Romania. The military deployments come as talks have stalled with Russia over its military buildup at Ukraine's borders. The president says he will not put American troops in Ukraine to fight any Russian attack, but the U.S. is supplying Ukraine with weapons to defend itself. Some scientists are now warning about the spread of Omicron and a potentially new variant, BA.2. As of now, infectious disease experts have not officially separated BA.2 from Omicron in the way that Omicron is considered a totally separate strain of COVID from Delta. While state and federal health officials continue to emphasize testing, vaccines, and boosters, Novant Health infectious disease expert Dr. David Priest says vaccines may be the most important component in fighting Omicron. Priest says the number of people who are vaccinated and looking to get booster shots has leveled off. Offshore wind is a big topic of discussion in many of our coastal beach towns. Now the state's spotlight will shine on the Cape Fear today. Governor Roy Cooper will deliver remarks at the inaugural meeting of the NC Task Force for Offshore Wind Economic Resource Strategies happening later today. The issue is divisive locally. The Brunswick County Board of Commissioners unanimously voting in August on a resolution expressing disapproval of putting wind turbines off the county shoreline. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has released nominees for the class of 2022. They include Dolly Parton, A Tribe Called Quest, Beck, Devo, Duran Duran, Lionel Richie, Carly Simon, and Eminem. Artists or groups who can only be considered if their first commercial recording was released at least 25 years ago. Inductees will be announced in May. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast, and we are going to be seeing mostly cloudy skies throughout the day today, but that's not going to stop us from jumping into the low 70s if you're inland of the coast. Closer to the immediate coastline, temperatures should rise into the middle and the upper 60s, well above the average for this time of year. And then overnight tonight, we could see a small chance for an isolated shower or two as our temperatures drop down to the upper 50s and the low 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
If you want to talk about culture and politics without all the caterwauling, then you'll love Hertel Radio with me, your host, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning, 6 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m. right here on the Big Talker. Catch it on the Listen Live tab on the app or watch on the Facebook page.
That's right, folks. 8 o'clock, bell rung. Everybody needs to get moving. Up and at 'em. Come on, you little daisies. That's right, Reveille is playing. It's Saturday, or you're late. If you ain't there, you're late. But you're right on time. Here at the Asylum on the Big Talker Online, as we discuss the fiscal responsibility of our elected officials and how effective these bureaucratic administrations are when solving the problems that they are tasked with. Now, part of my rant a little earlier, and again, this is North Carolina, looking at the Vertex rail car, $600,000 fiasco that turned into a $45 million bankruptcy suit was supposed to bring us 1,350 jobs. Now, none of those jobs exist. So we're 1,300 jobs in the hole, and now we're going to spend $100 million from the magically approved budget of North Carolina. Thank you, Roy Cooper. Will bring more than 1,700 jobs. More than 1,750 jobs by 2030 officially, according to the governor.nc.gov website. Governor Cooper announces Boom will manufacture supersonic aircraft in North Carolina, creating more than 1,750 jobs by 2030. And then I'm going to read the exact headline. Vertex Rail to bring 1,300 jobs to Wilmington, invest $50 million in production facility, and bring China with it. So soon we're going to be down over 3,000 jobs, and we will be out over $1.6 million because North Carolina is just the cash cow idiot. We're like the rich retard on the bus. Hey, spot me $5, I'll get you on Tuesday. If you give me $5, I'll hire your brother. And Los Angeles has a program, the Homelessness Services Authority, which is funded at a rate of $1 billion a year. And the only thing that's increased is the salaries of the people administering this monstrosity. This is a model that North Carolina would do well to avoid. In fact, it would do well to avoid a lot of the crap that's coming down the pipe. But here we are. We have a homeless problem. We have an employment problem. We have a lot of problems facing our area here in North Carolina. But our solutions are not necessarily a blank check. And anytime these checks are cut and dispensed, it should come with somebody attached to it. Like a snubble, if anybody knows the Pokemon. You just attach this thing to it. Like a blockchain. You know it. You know where it's going. You know who has it. You know where it is. But if they're only showing 4% success rate in California on this $1 billion a year program, that's a really expensive ROI. And for $1 billion, we could repair bridges. So that we don't have what happened in Pennsylvania happen here. There are other issues we need to address, and we're not looking at them correctly. We're just setting up new bureaucracies, throwing money at it so that somebody's buddy with no marketable skills and a degree from a liberal arts college can have a job and do something. Here, this is the state-approved paperwork. All you do is fill this out, sign your name, you cut a check. You're done. And remember, the Community Violence Action Plan specifically states it's a direct investment in the community, which is not something the government's supposed to be doing. They don't do investments. It's called gambling. And this is supposed to be on behalf of your community. But if it's not helping your community, it's not helping anyone. Therefore, there are other things that we need to look at to find a way to solve this problem. Because apparently, and I'm not a smart guy, and I can see that there is a parallel, there is a consistency, a commonality to the ineffectiveness of this approach and the irresponsibility inherent with it, given our current collection of representatives. I'll put it that way. So former Governor Pat McCrory is currently running for senator, and he's the one who brought Vertex Rail down upon us. So maybe we should rethink this guy representing us. And Cooper, with his magically approved budget, announced just before, when was the North Carolina budget announcement? When was that? Oh. 2021 Appropriations Act was finally signed on November 18th of 2021. This budget moves North Carolina forward in important ways. Funding for high-speed internet, our universities and community colleges, clean air and drinking water, and desperately needed pay increases for teachers and state employees are all critical for our state to emerge from this pandemic stronger than ever. I will continue to fight for progress where this budget falls short, but believe that, on balance, it is an important step in the right direction. To quote Governor Cooper himself, this legislation will expand the use of ignition interlock systems that are proven to reduce alcohol-related accidents and save lives. Oh, that was on Senate Bill 183. Which is basically a way of making more money on a crime rather than holding people to account for that crime. So the community will require public education, almost $11 million. 1.3, what is that? 100,000. Oh, 10 billion. Okay. I mean, all these cats are getting, UNC at Chapel Hill is getting a third of $1 billion. I mean, these are ridiculous numbers, people. 100,000 million. And I'm scrolling through all the stuff that they're funding here. A lot of them are, the wildlife resources community is getting a paltry 12 to 20 over the next couple of years. General government, administrative hearings, 7.3 million. Administrative costs of general government for North Carolina net appropriation is well over 120 million over the next 2 years. That seems a little ridiculous. Elections alone, 20 million over the next couple of years. The governor, of course, he's in the 12 million range. Housing Finance Agency has the most zeros. I mean, just all zeros. Like somebody did this somehow. Kind of crazy. To show exactly 10,666,000. Revenue, 110 million a year. State Treasurer Debt Service, 000. They're the only ones who make sense. State Fiscal Recovery Fund requirements and appropriations totals to 0. Taking in $30 billion. Quite the search. So it's going to be difficult to search within this thing to find where boom fits in here. But I don't think it's going to be its own line item. But somewhere in here is $100 million for Boom Technologies. Which was magically approved at the same time. So when this budget was approved in November of 2021, we knew then that $100 million was going to get hemorrhaged out to our friends, our new friends at Boom Supersonic. How's that? That's where it's going to go. And I'm not even sure how to unlock or how to unpack all that. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. That's crazy talk is what it is. That's what it is. So I should be able to. Why can't I see this in another program that will allow me to search? I tell you what. Let's look at that. Let's look at this a little bit closer. It is a PDF file. I'm going to see if I can't download it onto this machine. And then we're going to search it. And see what we come up with. $628 pages in this bill, by the way, in the finance bill. So it's taken my computer a few seconds and probably dropping a number of frames while trying to do this search. But it's searching all 630 pages looking for Boom Supersonic. We'll see what happens. Because this is money we've already spent. We've already promised this money to Boom Supersonic. So, Jake, Captain Groupon Scholl, if that is a legitimate way of doing this. I should say Blake Scholl, the former CEO of Groupon, is about to make $100 million on North Carolina, an additional $60 million on the United States Air Force. And be required to produce absolutely nothing. Because we have no recourse. We have no... Oh, there's nothing in the ratified bill of the Current Operations Appropriations Act of 2021. So it's tucked away, hidden elsewhere, and I guess we need to look into that, ladies and gentlemen. Because if the ratified bill does not state specifically Boom Aerospace, Boom Supersonic to build their aircraft, then we need to find out how that $100 million is earmarked or marked in this Senate Appropriations Bill of 2021 so that we can get a handle on what is to become known as fiscal responsibility in our state government. At least that's what we're aiming for. Because next thing you know, we're going to be hemorrhaging $1 billion a year for homeless tents. And if you think it can't happen here, just wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? This is why the astute look around to other communities and other situations and say, all right, what's working and what's not working? Let's not do this, let's do that. Let's not spend $1 billion a year on a bloated administration for an authority of homelessness services. Authority. That right there is why Americans freak out. Authority generally means that the inept are in charge of something they don't understand. What we need are more experienced, effective leaders in places where they can be effective, so we don't end up with Betsy DeVos. There is no reason why anybody in America should know that person's name at all. It makes sense that we know Blake Shaw's name because his accomplishments are valid and legit. They have absolutely nothing to do with supersonic aircraft or anything aerospace technology otherwise. But the guy can make a coupon, that's for sure. He can enhance the e-tail e-commerce experience to drive greater sales and revenues for the companies that employ his stuff. That's legit. It's evil in its own way, in its own right, but that's his accomplishment. That's what he's done. The people working at other companies like, I don't know, Spike Aerospace are actually smart people. Like NASA level smart. Northrop Grumman level smart. And before they even started designing the aircraft, they identified a market. Hey, if we were to build an SST, who would want it? Airline level operations is just not viable. I mean, the bigger we make the aircraft, the more expensive it is to operate. So trying to carry 88 people is going to be ridiculously expensive to operate and maintain. But the military flies a bazillion of these little Hornets or whatever they're called, these amazing little supersonic aircraft. They're tiny. They have a super powerful engine or two and a really small body, and they're designed to break things and kill people really quickly. So the design of supersonic transportation has not diminished. It's not gone away with the Concorde. We learned from it and continue to learn, designed even newer, better, faster supersonic aircraft, but we made them smaller and more efficient. So to go old school again and try and bring back a Concorde-esque airplane is ludicrous. And because the people at the legislative level of North Carolina are uneducated and unable to comprehend what it is that they're reading and hearing, we're going to spend money on the least logical, the most insane option on the table. Did I agree that we should be, recruiting companies into North Carolina that help improve our economy and our employment base? Vertex Rail is not one of them, Mr. McCrory. And if you're trying to outdo McCrory, Mr. Cooper, this boom supersonic is not the way to go about it. All of these failures are just going to encourage the rest of the company to come here and pillage our coffer without anything to show for it and absolutely no recourse. Has anybody held McCrory to account for those 1,300 jobs we still don't have from the Vertex Rail partnership? Huh? Anybody? Anybody? Pat, you got anything? No? We got a $45 million bankruptcy lawsuit. We almost had a Chinese spy substation here. But no. Now you're going to run for senator, and we're still going to pay you and give you benefits of health care far beyond what other Americans will ever see. So instead, we're going to reward you for the $600,000 disaster you brought and pay absolutely no consequence or anything. No accountability for those $1,300 jobs you promised, giving away $600,000 of our money. If we're going to bring companies to North Carolina, let's bring companies that make sense. Initially, Vertex Railcar kind of made sense, but nobody did the due diligence. It was after the checks were signed and the things were set in motion and the first couple of rail cars were actually made did we discover that the major shareholder in the company was China. Then we looked into it. Then we discovered there was a problem. But by then, that money was already gone. And the legislature of North Carolina did not learn anything. Many of these people are still in office from then, are here now, and they did it again. I don't care on what side of the aisle you're coming from. This is just stupid. This is uneducated legislators making decisions for you and I that they know nothing about and didn't bother to find out. All it would take is a couple of phone calls to the enormous resource known as our higher education system here in North Carolina. I mean, any physics teacher or aeronautics engineer anywhere in the state would have looked at those two companies and said, yeah, boom is not the way to go. North Carolina didn't shop around with Vertex, I don't think, because they sure didn't shop around with the Boom Supersonic. And the reason why I say shop around is because it turns out North Carolina went to Boom to recruit them to come here. So I think there's a relationship involved there. Somebody's friend, somebody's buddy. Somebody wants to be cool on TikTok or Instagram and is willing to throw $100 million at that. I mean, even if everybody at Spike is difficult to work with and difficult to talk to, at least they have a shot at producing something. They've identified their market. They've done their due diligence. They have smart people doing the stuff to make it work. And we just can't seem to figure it out here. Little brain food for y'all. So, here in just a minute, we'll be back on the Asylum on the Big Talker Online. Don't go nowhere.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. The Pentagon says President Joe Biden is sending about 2,000 troops from Fort Bragg to Poland and Germany this week. About 1,000 of those troops will be based in Germany to Romania. The military deployments come as talks have stalled with Russia over its military buildup at Ukraine's borders. The president says he will not put American troops in Ukraine to fight any Russian attack, but the U.S. is supplying Ukraine with weapons to defend itself. Some scientists are now warning about the spread of Omicron and a potentially new variant, BA.2. As of now, infectious disease experts have not officially separated BA.2 from Omicron in the way that Omicron is considered a totally separate strain of COVID from Delta. While state and federal health officials continue to emphasize testing, vaccines, and boosters, Novant Health infectious disease expert Dr. David Priest says vaccines may be the most important component in fighting Omicron. Priest says the number of people who are vaccinated and looking to get booster shots has leveled off. Offshore wind is a big topic of discussion in many of our coastal beach towns. Now the state's spotlight will shine on the Cape Fear today. Governor Roy Cooper will deliver remarks at the inaugural meeting of the NC Task Force for Offshore Wind Economic Resource Strategies happening later today. The issue is divisive locally. The Brunswick County Board of Commissioners unanimously voting in August on a resolution expressing disapproval of putting wind turbines off the county shoreline. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has released nominees for the class of 2022. They include Dolly Parton, A Tribe Called Quest, Beck, Devo, Duran Duran, Lionel Richie, Carly Simon, and Eminem. Artists or groups who can only be considered if their first commercial recording was released at least 25 years ago. Inductees will be announced in May. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast, and we are going to be seeing mostly cloudy skies throughout the day today, but that's not going to stop us from jumping into the low 70s if you're inland of the coast. Closer to the immediate coastline, temperatures should rise into the middle and the upper 60s, well above the average for this time of year. And then overnight tonight, we could see a small chance for an isolated shower or two as our temperatures drop down to the upper 50s and the low 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Well, hey, y'all, it's Holly Brewer.
And Amy Ludwig. And Kristen Ludwig.
From Just Think, the podcast. The podcast where we don't want to tell you what to think. We just challenge you to do it. We're happy to have some of our episodes featured right here on 106.7 The Big Talker on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So we hope you join us in the conversation and most importantly, just think.
One Love Tennis started in 2013 to give back to young boys and girls. We now go through 460 kids a week that are learning about life skills, learning to succeed in life through academics and tennis. Putting those two together, if you do them well, you can write your own ticket. To get involved in this program, go to our website, one-love-tennis.org.
I am State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better place. Visit us online at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
That's right. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. We're talking all things fiscally responsible, irresponsible, and otherwise right here on the Asylum on the Big Talker Online. And that's one of the most wonderful things about stealing a radio station and developing your own morning program is, well, you kind of set your own boundaries, set your own guardrails, if you will. And I don't think it's unfair to go after some of these state and community programs when it takes money out of our pockets, the money that they've already collected and fleeced from us, and put it into programs that have proven to be ineffective, etc. So if the Vertex rail car fiasco didn't teach us anything, then we're not going to learn anything from Boom Supersonic at a cost of $100 million. And I predict that we're going to address our homeless problem the same way. Homeless issue the same way. We'll throw $1 billion at it like Los Angeles did, only to discover that we're paying for a bureaucracy. We're not paying for a solution. And if all goes well, we will be interviewing people who have made enormous changes, provided solutions, shows success, and is fiscally responsible, self-sustaining, self-accountability, and has grown into something unbelievable. It's like an entire sub-community that allows a rather comfortable transition from the untouchables of our own society here in America to respected contributing members of that same community. But instead, Los Angeles decided to come at it with the Homelessness Services Authority. So they are the authority to render services to the homeless. Power. That's what that one's about. That's all that's about. Money, power, power, money. The most influential drug ever. Money. Power. They equate to each other. The problem is, money doesn't always get you what you want. If you don't believe me, let's look over in the, I think it was the United Arab Emirates trying to create a whole bunch of islands out of nothing to create a seaside resort of islands, man-made islands and as fast as they can make these islands, they're sinking. And they are spending stupid amounts of money, oil money on this, while the rest of their population starves to death and their infrastructure is falling apart. This is the same, area that gave us Bhopal. That same lack of concern for their population is obviously not something we have here in America, to the point that they will sacrifice their entire population for some insane idea. Or for profit. We have that in common with them. And they don't have to be held fiscally responsible. In fact, neither does China or Russia. They can spend money on whatever they want. They can take your money whenever they want, arbitrarily, and use it for what they feel is necessary. North Korea's dichotomy in that regard is even more striking in its contrast. But still, $1 billion right here in America in one city, Los Angeles, is an insane amount of money. For $1 billion here in North Carolina, there's a lot of issues we could actually fix, like repairing a bridge, where you don't want to go with the lowest bidder. You want to go with a bidder who's going to make sense, who can actually show you what it is we're going to do and why it costs this much. Something Boom Supersonic cannot do. And I'm really hoping somebody somewhere along the way at least tried and said, look, this guy's talking $100 tickets for 4-hour SST flights anywhere in the world. He's not right in the head. We should not be doing business with this guy. Hey, the dude doing the research, the one I'm hoping had at least tried to stop this, probably even has a Groupon account. Hey, I like what he did with Groupon. I don't think he's the right guy for bringing SST technology to North Carolina. That's all it would have taken. That's it. Would have been good to go. But at least we would recognize that his accomplishments to this point are valid in that arena, in that industry. And I get it. If you become a multi-millionaire, or even a billionaire, while in the tech sector, living in the tech corridor with all your tech bros and your tech cool, if you want to get into some other cool tech, well, before you just jump out there and build an SST, maybe get a pilot's license. At least show a little interest in the industry that you're doing. And if you've got a private pilot, get a commercial license. Know what it is that you're building. Crawl into an FA-14 fighter attack. Get into one of these birds that goes faster than sound and you know, understand what this stuff is going through. Spike Aerospace came at it the other way. It's impossible for me to stop talking about it because these two things are really kind of crossing over each other, and we're about to lose a lot of money on really stupid ideas that are not going to fix any of the problems. But we're going to spend money on it. That's how we work here. That's how we do it. And North Carolina doesn't have an event like the Super Bowl to bring in $500 million for a single event. So it's not like we can afford these kinds of budgets for the Community Violence Action Plan and the Boom Supersonic. And again, I hold Vertex Railcar as the example of what we should not be doing here in North Carolina. Because if this thing with Boom fails, goes through, and then collapses by 2030, you're going to have a bunch of startups from around the country looking to set up shop and vaporize right here in North Carolina. The ones that started here in North Carolina, like NextGlass, they actually worked. There's a number of them. I think Gig Salad started here. I'm not sure what they're doing, but I know there was a number of tech that started here that didn't cost us $100 million or even $100,000. Where are their incentives? Where are their rewards for doing well and succeeding? No. You don't. You're boned. If you wanted to get those breaks, you should have gone to Oregon. They're looking for tech people to expand their corridor, so maybe you could have gotten $160 million to move your tech organization to Oregon. But because you're a native here in North Carolina, you started your company here in North Carolina, the best you're going to get is taxed. So where's the incentive for building from within North Carolina? Remember, the Wright brothers, no matter how much you want to hold the Wright brothers up in your Boom Supersonic presser, they weren't from here. They were from Ohio. They did all their work in Ohio and then brought it here for testing. And it makes sense. The ocean breeze is certainly helpful in generating lift in your very first aircraft. There were a number of advantages to doing their test flights here. But the work, the bicycle company that funded this and did all this was in Ohio. The Wright brothers didn't set up their shop in North Carolina. Not at all. They didn't. They came out here, they flew their thing, they went home. That's it. That's our only claim, is that they came to Kitty Hawk to test their stuff. But everything about the aircraft was designed, built, manufactured, tested in Ohio. So what incentives do we have to develop from within North Carolina? Do we have anything in place for that? Or do we only have, how much did you pay the person to go recruit Boom Supersonic to come to North Carolina? That person needs to be fired and all of that money returned, because that was absolutely irresponsible. If you were the one who came up with the recommendation and did not mention any of the other companies, specifically, as I will point out, Spike Aerospace, you need to be held to account. Because you were paid to go get us business that's going to bring 1,700 jobs and $500 million in economic stimulation. And if that fails, you should be roasted upon a spit and served to the vermin in the fields randomly scattered somewhere in North Carolina. And every dollar you ever made while involved in this fiasco should be returned to the people of North Carolina with interest. Because these 750 plus jobs are not going to happen with a company that can't even get their own product straight. Does it hold 55, 65, 88? I don't know. How much are tickets? I don't know. $100. $100. It was costing $8,000 to $12,000 to fly on the Concorde in the 90s. That was 30 years ago. So now you're saying that $100 anywhere in the world, 4 hours. On 100% sustainable aircraft fuel, which isn't really a final thing yet. They're developing it. I'll give you that. I like the idea. But current conditions prevent using 100% SAF in any aircraft because it will destroy the engines. New technologies, new developments make sense, but they're not here yet. So you can't be promising $100 tickets. He does say that the $100 ticket isn't going to happen on our first flight. It's not going to happen on any flight. And let's be real. The Concorde showed us that while SST is possible, and we knew that with our military fighter aircraft, but we did discover that it's not economically viable given the cost of fuel and the cost of maintenance to keep this thing flying. For a market that's just as insane. United Airlines ordering 15 of these is unrealistic at best. So I predict that we will have, by 2030, a couple of hundred extra jobs happening in the Greensboro area. Because the $100 million we're putting into this is going to build a hangar on the Piedmont Triad International Airport. So at least there will be a facility there that any other company that works on aircraft would be able to get their work done there. But don't expect to see any time in this decade SST tickets on an airline. There's no way you're going to United Airlines and hopping on an SST out of New York. Not happening. But if you're with a Fortune 500 company that can afford a private jet, this may be an option for you. Spike Aerospace has an aircraft that's meant to be a small private jet, just like a regular small private jet, just 2-3 times as fast. And that makes sense. And the market is already there. And the market is actually interested in this. And this is a market that does not concern itself with per ticket sales, per ticket costs. They're just looking at, hey, I got to get around the world with my bigwigs, and we do it now in a G5, and it takes us 8 hours. Can we do it in 4? We can? And have a conference on the way? Sign me up. But am I going to take my bigwigs for $12,000 a head and shove them in a tube with a bunch of other regular people, Baby McCrybaby over in the corner, and Karen with a mask issue? No. Because once these people have flown private, they do not go back. So yeah, we got a few things to look at. And I think we could look to other states and their successes as to what programs and businesses they bring in to create jobs and grow the economy. And we have some right here in town. In fact, the second largest home builders association in North Carolina is right here in Wilmington. Did you know that? 20% of all the jobs in this area are affected by construction. 20%, 1 in 5. So when those people band together, they got a voice, man. They can work on legislation. They can get to the bottom of some issues. And that's what it takes, numbers. And not just numbers of money. That's what's been causing the problem. We need to get to the people. We need to get where the decisions are made. We need to get to where effective change can be made. And one of the ways that we can do that as Americans, and as our right, is to learn how to vote informed. Understand that Pat McCrory is still being rewarded for the Vertex rail car fiasco. And now he's running for office, and y'all need to think about that. Do you want the guy who brought Vertex Rail back in any kind of office in this state? There's at least 4 million people in the state of North Carolina. There's got to be somebody better than the Vertex Rail poster boy. $10.5 million people here in North Carolina. Pat McCrory is not the one we should be choosing to represent us in the North Carolina legislation at any time, ever. And Mr. Cooper's days in politics should be numbered as well, because y'all should keep a close eye on this Vertex Rail situation, or excuse me, the Boom Supersonic. Watch where that money's going. Watch where it came from. Pay attention to the fact that a check was cut almost immediately after his budget was approved, because he kept vetoing the budget until his buddies got money. So this should be the end of his political career. We should start holding these people accountable. And the only way we have to do that is by voting. And that needs to change as well. We need to be able to hold these people accountable for profiting on failed relationships at our expense. We need to elect leaders that are interested in the community, not promoting the community, but building the community, strengthening the community, supporting the community. Vertex Rail did not support the community in any way, shape, or form, did it, Mr. McCrory? And now Mr. Cooper is going to try and outdo you by bringing 1,750 jobs at a cost of $100 million on this vaporware. There's got to be better people than the reality idiot running on name recognition. Pat McCrory, who's already showed how much he cares about his community by Vertex Rail. Mr. Cooper, with his inability to approve a budget until Boom Supersonic came along. If there was no other criterion, I think this is a pretty good metric by which to standardize our barrier to entry for politicians representing us here in the state of North Carolina. We may not be able to do it federally, but here, can we do that here? Right? Like a new rule thing. New rule, you screw with our budget, that's your last time in office ever. We eliminate so many of your perks. You pay for your own health care. Whatever it takes to get these people to focus on the fact that they are here to serve the community, not embellish their riches. Being in office should not increase your net worth. It should increase your social worth. It should show the people around you and in the private sector, so when your 2 terms are up and you're in the private sector looking for a gig, a company can say, hey, you were really an effective leader before you went into office. You were very effective in office. I appreciate your integrity, and I would like you to be a part of my company. Because you would have to be in the private sector supporting yourself before you could end up in office to be elected. And in my world, you'd be limited to 2 terms no matter what. That when you're done with your 8 to 12 years, You need to go back in the private sector and earn a living like the rest of us. No more of this career politician nonsense. There'd be a lot of other things that are nonsense to be eliminated, like this use it or lose it concept of spending money. Financial responsibility, fiscal accountability, these would be issues that would be forefront to every single politician. They would have their own watchdog on them on all the time. So instead of having an aide, right, because every one of our senators and representatives have aides and staff, one of those staff should be a really angry CPA. And he just nitpicks every single bean that goes through your hands. That's how we should do that. And eliminate the political action committees, certainly the super PACs, lobbying, all that. But by the same token, nobody should be elected into an office that doesn't have experience in the office that they're being elected for. Which is weird. Sounds weird at first. But I'm not saying experience in being in a political office, but experience being in a type of curricula vitae that would show leadership and responsible response. You know, effective HR people, effective doctors and administrators of hospitals. I mean, right now we could probably do with whatever it is that they're teaching the Chick-fil-A drive-through people, because they're able to deal with large numbers of people in very short order and nobody gets into a fist fight. Looking at you, Golden Corral, I think it was. Fight broke out because they ran out of steak. Tell you what, carnivores are serious, man. Don't mess with us. We will take you down. That's all there is to that. Tell you what, we're going to take a little bit of a break, catch our friends from the WAY newsroom, as well as a few words from our sponsors and supporters. We'll be right back on the Asylum on the Big Talker Online.
Keeping Southport informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Folks, you know you're all looking for that special gift. Lines are long, traffic is frustrating, supply chains in the news. Just take a deep breath. If you're anywhere near Oak Island, come by Seaside Jewelers, 8801 East Oak Island Drive. Avoid the traffic, the lines, the frustration, and get that extraordinary and special gift. From high-end diamond rings to Larimar, from necklaces to bracelets, watches, and unique jewelry. And you also get one-on-one service with their experienced staff. Great prices now, just in time for the holidays. Come by and check out Seaside Jewelers, 8801 East Oak Island Drive.
Wake up to Good Morning Carolina, weekdays at 5:30 a.m.
And good morning, Carolina. It is a very busy news morning today. I'm Donna Gregory.
And I'm Jeff Rivenbark. We're glad you're starting your Tuesday with us.
Be prepared and ready to go for the day ahead.
For the time being, we are dry and quiet, but we are dealing with some patchy fog.
And catch up with the overnight news you need to know before heading out the door.
We'll have more details and more live coverage in just a few moments.
Get up early for Good Morning Carolina, weekdays at 5:30 a.m.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. The Pentagon says President Joe Biden is sending about 2,000 troops from Fort Bragg to Poland and Germany this week. About 1,000 of those troops will be based in Germany to Romania. The military deployments come as talks have stalled with Russia over its military buildup at Ukraine's borders. The president says he will not put American troops in Ukraine to fight any Russian attack, but the U.S. is supplying Ukraine with weapons to defend itself. Some scientists are now warning about the spread of Omicron and a potentially new variant, BA.2. As of now, infectious disease experts have not officially separated BA.2 from Omicron in the way that Omicron is considered a totally separate strain of COVID from Delta. While state and federal health officials continue to emphasize testing, vaccines, and boosters, Novant Health infectious disease expert Dr. David Priest says vaccines may be the most important component in fighting Omicron. Priest says the number of people who are vaccinated and looking to get booster shots has leveled off. Offshore wind is a big topic of discussion in many of our coastal beach towns. Now the state's spotlight will shine on the Cape Fear today. Governor Roy Cooper will deliver remarks at the inaugural meeting of the NC Task Force for Offshore Wind Economic Resource Strategies happening later today. The issue is divisive locally. The Brunswick County Board of Commissioners unanimously voting in August on a resolution expressing disapproval of putting wind turbines off the county shoreline. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has released nominees for the class of 2022. They include Dolly Parton, A Tribe Called Quest, Beck, Devo, Duran Duran, Lionel Richie, Carly Simon, and Eminem. Artists or groups who can only be considered if their first commercial recording was released at least 25 years ago. Inductees will be announced in May. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast, and we are going to be seeing mostly cloudy skies throughout the day today, but that's not going to stop us from jumping into the low 70s if you're inland of the coast. Closer to the immediate coastline, temperatures should rise into the middle and the upper 60s, well above the average for this time of year. And then overnight tonight, we could see a small chance for an isolated shower or two as our temperatures drop down to the upper 50s and the low 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Well, hey, y'all, it's Holly Brewer
and Amy Ludwig and Kristen Ludwig
from Just Think, the podcast. The podcast where we don't want to tell you what to think, we just challenge you to do it. We're happy to have some of our episodes featured right here on 106.7 The Big Talker on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So we hope you join us in the conversation and most importantly, just think.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. Tune in Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. for Objection to the Form, covering civil litigation, real estate issues, and intellectual property. That's Objection to the Form, Thursdays 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Get up. Get moving. Get your coffee, get your donuts. Time to get your Karen started. Get your day started. And here we are back in the asylum. Going crazy on the Big Talker Online. With the only morning talk show host unlike any other talk show host on the planet. In fact, I just got an email since I haven't bought my phone card yet, so my phone is offline for a minute. And he's like, man, can't you be a little more upbeat like the other morning guys? No, I'm not the other morning guys. I'm not even a morning guy. I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning making this stuff happen. You expect bright-eyed, bushy-tailed and... No. Go find yourself a squirrel, buddy. I roll out of bed, I make my coffee, I turn on the radio, and I get moving. That's about as high energy as I'm going to get. Now, you get me upset, you might get some yelling. You might get raised voices. Or if I run across something that's so completely inane that it's difficult to maintain composure in the face of such stupidity. It's aggravating to a level that's impossible to ignore. And it should be. And I'm a stupid guy. So the smart people that have actual money in this game, they should be livid. But no. Mr. Cooper has already signed the check and sealed our fate, just like McCrory did with the Vertex Rail partnership. And so far, we've been depending on the community to solve the problems within the community, and sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong, sometimes we need a little help. But inventing a bloated administrated bureaucracy for each individual thing is going to get cumbersome, not to mention expensive. So pissing away $100 million on a vaporware idea, promising 1,700 jobs we will never see, is not the kind of hit we can take here in North Carolina. We are not made of money. But you seem to be sending that message that we are uneducated and without money. So, hey, any other company that wants to fleece North Carolina, our coffers are open. The phone lines are open with operators standing by. In fact, we'll send people to you. We will pay people out of our own pocket to go to you, to give you money to come here and do nothing constructive. And if it fails, they can still run for office and still take taxpayer money directly into their pocket. Isn't that how you're doing it, Mr. McCrory, running for Senate after Vertex Rail in 2014, 2018? That's on you, man. And I don't know about anybody else, regardless of what color tie he wears. That's the type of fiscal irresponsibility that we do not need in our legislative branch whatsoever. Neither do we need a reality star in our legislation. Folks, there's 10.5 million people in this state. There's got to be more than what our current crop. I mean, this system is not working well. And it's time to shake up the bottle and find out of these 10.5 million people, a couple hundred that are not pieces of garbage, that are actually educated, smart, are able to comprehend what they read, are able to ask questions and get to the bottom of some of this stupid and prevent it from actually happening. Taking a look at our budget and saying, hey, here's how we can be effective. Want to know how I know? This is what I do for a living in the private sector. Hey. I mean, why do we have MBAs trying to administer a mental health program? And how is it with the amount of money that the state of North Carolina is raking in that we are unable to provide mental health services to those who need it, certainly in critical crisis situations? Right now, as Andrew points out, it's month backlog. So caseworker has become the cuss word of the 20s. It's not like having more caseworkers would solve the problem, because the caseworkers are trying to basically administer resources to those who need it. If we don't have any resources, the caseworker is even, more redundant and ineffectual. If they can't put them anywhere, they can't get them the help they need because that help is unavailable. Because we spent it on an imaginary aerospace company. And now that that money's gone, we can't replace the bridge. It just fell in the ocean or fell in the river, which was these, many people's direct connection to the mental health that they need, that we finally got them lined up for. And while they were on the bridge, it collapsed. That's our future. That's going to be our news story. North Carolina finally comes up with the best mental health program ever, and everybody dies on the way to their first meeting because the bridge collapses. That's us. That's North Carolina right there. But people are actually considering voting for Pat McCrory this year. Now, far be it from me to tell you how to vote, I just want you to keep in mind Vertex rail car. Just Google Vertex rail car Pat McCrory and tell me where all of those beautiful, flowery promises are today. Where are those 1,300 jobs? Where's the millions in economic stimulation in our economy? Where is it? How did that work out? This is what proven track record is, right? And this is very true in business. Other businesses look at this and they pay attention. Hey, I see you got a startup and you're asking me for an investment, and all of your other investment or all of your other endeavors ended in bankruptcy. So how's this one different? That's North Carolina. You know, you already ruined Vertex Rail. Now you have other, and there are other examples I'm sure we can dig up. Don't encourage me, or I'll do it. But no, we got three just right here. We have Vertex. Coming up next is the Community Violence Action Plan. And right after that is going to be the Boom Supersonic. The clock is already ticking on Boom Supersonic. It got moved from 2027 to 2029 to 2030. So somewhere between now and 2030, there's going to be $500 million coming into North Carolina, along with 1,750 plus new jobs, new employment happening in the Greensboro area. That's what our $100 million gamble is all about. That's what we're paying for. And the U.S. Air Force has thrown in another $60 million, in which case financial responsibility, fiscal accountability in our military could certainly use an overhaul. Because they're already taking a significant portion of the national budget, and now they're going to spend it on this insane... Who is not paying attention at the Air Force to say, nah, brah, we don't need $100 tickets on a SST. You just take that imaginary unicorn ride somewhere else. Education is learning from previous experience, from the fringe of our experience. As we expand our experience, we expand our knowledge. But if we're too stupid to even be curious as to how are you going to fit 88 people when the Concorde... Wait, what? That's any adult, any kid should have been able to read this thing and been like, wait a minute. But the check is already cut. It's too late, ladies and gentlemen. All we can do is watch the train slowly wreck from now until 2030. While other companies around the country are going to bypass us and succeed in a much shorter time period with proven products in a proven market. And North Carolina is going to be stuck without 1,750 jobs. And we will be less $100 million. And our bridges will then be another decade older and crumbling even further. And nobody will be held account. And Governor Cooper will probably run for some other office so that he continues to be paid for being incompetent and without any marketable skills. 10.5 million people in North Carolina. We can do better than this. And you want to look at other cities and you want to point at other places? Let's take a look at Los Angeles. That's going to generate $500 million for one event. But they spend $1 billion a year on the Homelessness Services Authority. And all they've done is spent money, showing 4% effectiveness out of the thousands and thousands, like 60,000 homeless people they can reach out to and actually succeed with maybe a dozen or few dozen. So the only accountability we currently have as constituents to these morons is our vote. And we need to let them know that we are not going to take the insults anymore. A reality singy star guy? No. You don't belong in office in any way, shape, or form. You've already shown that you're incompetent and without marketable skill. Go home, read a book, try again. When you learn how to do something, then maybe we'll entertain it. But until then, just go away. Let the big boys handle this. Let the adults who have actually been through college and applied themselves to problems like this. Let's find frontline social workers and get them involved in politics. Get them involved in offering solutions, effective plans, things that work in their world that we can apply to a greater problem. Let's find business people who know how to invest and recognize smart businesses and smart industries and smart startups, that if we're going to romance somebody to come to North Carolina, that it's a good fit and isn't going to cost us $100 million for 1,700 jobs that simply will not exist. We needed that oversight and comprehension in 2014 when Pat McCrory signed on with the Vertex Rail Company, and we need it today. We need an educated legislative body. We need people who know what the hell they're doing and what they're talking about when presented with things. And if they don't know, instead of spending money on lobbyists and PACs and super PACs, what we should be doing is spending money on access to think tanks that can explain this to a 5-year-old, so that our legislation would be able to say, hey, we have a proposal here, and not one of us, because we're all MBAs, not one of us understands any of the technology or terminology that's in this. Can you explain it to us? Can you help us unwrap what this is about so that we can make an informed, mature, adult decision on what to do for our community? If there was any of this type of conversation, boom supersonic would not even be a term in North Carolina. But right now, it is the scariest damn thing that we have facing us. And here's what's really insulting. Virginia has 8.5 million. South Carolina has 5.1 million. North Carolina has 10.5 million. Pat McCrory and Governor Cooper are the types of people that pop up as our leaders. Those are who we elect. $10.5 million. We can do better than this, people. That's true at the community level, city level, county level, state level. So our interest would be getting the third of the apathetic voters. At the new party, you have Democrats, you have Republicans, and you have the apathetics. So I want to talk to the apathetics. Because the ones on the right and the left, they're going to throw rocks at each other. They're already set. They are already in their little treehouse fort. They're already protected behind their rhetoric, throwing their rocks. They're already set. It's the apathetic third that can actually make a difference. Those are the ones who actually would read a book and probably understand how it is that Fahrenheit 451 came to be banned, or how To Kill a Mockingbird came to be banned. And why? What the benefits are. Because whenever some sort of change like this is being made, somebody's benefiting. And if you follow that money, you will find the truth of what's going on. That's true with this use it or lose it money. It's true with this boom supersonic sweetheart deal. It has everything to do with this grocery store on donated land on the north side of Wilmington, North Carolina. But until the apathetic party gets involved, all of this crap is going to continue. And I would almost task the apathetic party with providing the oversight. You don't want to vote? Fine. Then do the diligence to show us why. No more road signs. I don't give a darn how much money you spend on road signs and how much that helps the economy. No more. No more money. No more advertising. No more commercial and television spots. Oh my God. My own boss is going to tell me to shut up because political campaigns generate revenue for radio and television stations. We're running political campaigns right now, or political ads right now. I'm not ashamed of it. It's part of the game as it sits right now, so it's legit. But I'd like to eliminate that. But by the same token, I would make forums almost mandatory, like the debates used to be in the 60s and 70s when I was a kid. Man, I can't watch my show because you're having some stupid debate. Had my parents actually gotten me involved then, I wouldn't be the problem that I am now. And I think my parallel is echoed across a good 50-60% of North Carolina and the nation at large. We never learned how to have these conversations, either at home or at school. We never learned to look into how the system works, how the legislation works at the state, local, and federal level. What's involved with all of this. In Wilmington being one of the fastest growing areas in the country right now, Leland and such, as that population goes up, the percentage of homelessness is going to go up as well. And with the cost of housing going beyond accessible, the stories of homelessness are going to increase. And that increase is going to become a greater tax on the system. So it's wonderful that we're increasing our population by X, but a percentage of X is going to be bringing homelessness. We're going to be bringing shopping carts from Arkansas. Or they're going to get here and find out that something about their business isn't right, and they lose their house, and boom, they're on the street. And they can't afford to get out of Wilmington. So they're going to pitch a tent in the park that is the public library, haunting everyone for $1 here and there. And North Carolina, in their brilliance, is going to look to Los Angeles and say, hey, if we throw $1 billion a year at it, we can get a 4% success rate out of it. That sounds like a plan, because we have money we need to piss away, and we have incompetent people with no marketable skills that we need to employ. So, win-win. Los Angeles, right? These are the people that give us, Hollywood movies and stuff. This is where the ultra-rich live. This is the party playground. So if you're homeless, at least it's good weather to be homeless in. And to know that there is a homelessness services authority looking out for you, your back's covered. You're going to sleep well, eat well. Because there's $1 billion a year to support you. And of course, that authority, which is power, is not beholden to the taxpayers, either at the federal, state, or city level. Or they don't feel that they are because they've not disclosed any of their line items. They haven't explained their expenses. How are you going through $1 billion a year and not showing something for it? We need to look at that now, here, so that that doesn't come here and do to us what it's doing to Los Angeles right now. And of course, if you want to talk optics, the optics of disenfranchising the entire homelessness encampment anywhere near the stadium is right now a national story. We were already harping on homelessness at the small level that we have here in Wilmington months ago. Mainly because it's annoying. It doesn't become important to you until it matters to you. That should not be a thing. But I admit that's part of my issue with it, because I was walking to work and a guy who's, dude, I'm making minimum wage just coming down here at 5 o'clock in the morning to turn the radio station on, and you're going to come up to me like this. If you're willing to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you could be making donuts. You get coffee, you get donuts, you get to eat, and you get a job. The hell off of me. But that's the same type of stigma that prevents this problem from meeting with a solution. And maybe part of that change is in me, for me to change what I'm understand about this. How is it we can have such unimaginable resources as, the top 4 or 5 people in this country? Like the Bezos and the Musks and the Gates, that level money. How can we be at that extreme and still not be able to use $1 billion a year efficiently to help manage a problem in a community? All of this, we need to remember, is about community. When you vote, you should be voting with your community in mind, not your ego or your buddy. Because the current crop of politicians, by and large, is inept and bereft of marketable skills, and we're the ones paying for it. I don't have all the answers, but if we work together, I'm sure we can come up with some answers. And it won't cost $1 billion. You know what I'm saying? Seems pretty simple to me. That's right. We'll be right back on the Asylum. Right here on the Big Talker FM.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. The Pentagon says President Joe Biden is sending about 2,000 troops from Fort Bragg to Poland and Germany this week. About 1,000 of those troops will be based in Germany to Romania. The military deployments come as talks have stalled with Russia over its military buildup at Ukraine's borders. The president says he will not put American troops in Ukraine to fight any Russian attack, but the U.S. is supplying Ukraine with weapons to defend itself. Some scientists are now warning about the spread of Omicron and a potentially new variant, BA.2. As of now, infectious disease experts have not officially separated BA.2 from Omicron in the way that Omicron is considered a totally separate strain of COVID from Delta. While state and federal health officials continue to emphasize testing, vaccines, and boosters, Novant Health infectious disease expert Dr. David Priest says vaccines may be the most important component in fighting Omicron. Priest says the number of people who are vaccinated and looking to get booster shots has leveled off. Offshore wind is a big topic of discussion in many of our coastal beach towns. Now the state's spotlight will shine on the Cape Fear today. Governor Roy Cooper will deliver remarks at the inaugural meeting of the NC Task Force for Offshore Wind Economic Resource Strategies happening later today. The issue is divisive locally. The Brunswick County Board of Commissioners unanimously voting in August on a resolution expressing disapproval of putting wind turbines off the county shoreline. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has released nominees for the class of 2022. They include Dolly Parton, A Tribe Called Quest, Beck, Devo, Duran Duran, Lionel Richie, Carly Simon, and Eminem. Artists or groups who can only be considered if their first commercial recording was released at least 25 years ago. Inductees will be announced in May. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast, and we are going to be seeing mostly cloudy skies throughout the day today, but that's not going to stop us from jumping into the low 70s if you're inland of the coast. Closer to the immediate coastline, temperatures should rise into the middle and the upper 60s, well above the average for this time of year. And then overnight tonight, we could see a small chance for an isolated shower or two as our temperatures drop down to the upper 50s and the low 60s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Teachers and parents, the North Carolina Symphony is here to support you as you carry on the education of your children and students. Take your kids on a free virtual field trip to the Symphony with a virtual education concert and companion student book. Go on a virtual journey to learn what makes music music with music by William Grant Still, Beethoven, Brahms, and more. Access the free video and student book with password 1932 at ncsymphony.org/virtual.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
If you want to talk about culture and politics without all the caterwauling, then you'll love Hertel Radio with me, your host, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning, 6 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m. right here on the Big Talker. Catch it on the Listen Live tab on the app or watch on the Facebook page.
Welcome back to the Asylum right here on the Big Talker online. Hope you had your coffee. Hope you're having a good morning as we roll out the last half hour of the show here. And I think we're developing a bit of a theme, or at least I am. Fiscal accountability. What is it we are doing for our community with the community's money? Are we effective at managing the resources we have at our disposal to benefit the community in which we live? I think the short answer is no, we are not. I mean, let's just be honest about it. And that's one of the things that as a child, and even today, I still don't understand how it is we have to have so many meetings and committees and impact studies. It just seems ridiculous to have to go through that much time and BS to come up with what smart people come up with in a matter of minutes. Why can't we access that resource more directly? For example, of the 10.5 million people, there has to be better, more experienced people who can help us with the issues facing education. Out of those 10.5 million people, there are probably some that are better at understanding homeless situations and how to solve them. I don't have the solutions. I'm not the smart guy. But I'll at least try. Sorry, I have the sound of freedom landing over my house right now, so. So when going into the elections coming up, I think we'll have more and more discussions on the character and track record of the people that are on these ballots. And we can take a more critical look at who they are. I mean, you can run your ad on my station, I don't care. But don't think that's going to immunize you from being critically examined yourself. It's because of that looking the other way that we have any of these problems in the first place. And folks, if anybody else understands, I mean, hey, can we hold these people account? If we don't have 1,700 jobs by the end of this decade, who do we string up from the highest treetop? By their toenails. Who pays back that $100 million for a bet that failed? There is no recourse. That's the thing. So we need to find a way to curb the amount of money that North Carolina will hemorrhage due to our uneducated legislators. And their track record should follow them forever, throughout their lives, like a criminal conviction. Yes, you were found to be responsible for the Vertex fiasco, and therefore you should not be qualified to stock groceries. You don't get to run for office again. You already screwed that up. You already showed us who you are. And I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want that in my office. I don't want that in my governor's office or legislature. Anything. Get out of here. You already showed us who you are and what you're about, and we didn't like it. Go home. And if you're homeless, hey, one of those 1,300 jobs would have really paid off about now, wouldn't it? And if all of your experience is reality TV pop show, and now you find yourself at the bottom of the barrel, nobody will work with you, you have no viable income or means of support, so you go into politics because, hey, where else can the incompetent gain employment and health insurance better than any other American? Politics. Get into office. And hey, make it a career. Like Mitch McConnell, you can be in this thing for 60 years. I remember when I was younger, there was a big uproar about the attendance records that many of our representatives weren't even showing up to vote for the votes that they're supposed to be voting on. Nah. I'm just a representative. I'm being paid X $1,000s a year, plus benefits that nobody else can even comprehend. And I don't have to do squat. There's no accountability except for the voters, so all I have to do is shake babies and kiss hands every 6 years. And as long as I can say what the people want to hear and wear the flashy clothes that make me attractive, and I can get reelected back into this position and never have to actually work I don't have to do anything. I got aides. I got staff. They do all that. All I got to do is be an incompetent, uneducated boob, and I'm eligible for the North Carolina legislature. Hey, vote for me. My campaign is everybody gets a guitar. And those that learn how to use it are, they're given rewards. Those who don't learn how to use it are, cast away on a boat somewhere. Why not? I mean, it's just as legitimate as, reality star guy. Hey, you remember my name from the TV show? I'm a hometown hero. I should be representing you in the North Carolina legislature. No, you should not. You should most definitely not. You should not have anything to do with this. What you could do to show me that you're interested is get a degree in constitutional law. Then I would understand that you're serious about what it is you want to do. But if you're trying to step off of some reality stage, discover you're unemployable, and then try to get into politics, no. The barrier to entry should be much higher. Now, in theory, that's what the DNC and the RNC are supposed to do for our presidential candidates, but they're not doing a better job. That one's going to be a popularity financial mess, popularity contest. And that's why I think that's the real reason why we haven't let women run for office at the presidential level. Because of the misogynistic nature of our country, it would become more of a USA pageant than it would be a presidential election. Tell me I'm wrong. But ever since the Lincoln-Kennedy debate, our votes have been more affected by our eyeballs than our sense of logic or understanding or comprehension. Guaranteed. And the thing is, they knew it. Kennedy's people knew it when they put him on stage in that suit. They knew it. Hey, this is the first color debate. He's going to be over there in this drab-looking beige suit. Let's give you some color that pops. Let's give you a modern Beatle-esque haircut. Let's make you look hip and cool. And no matter what you say, people are going to love you because you already look better. You look healthier than the other guy. That even without sound, you can see that debate was art. It was almost like a wrestling match where one guy was dressed up and looking good and the other guy was he was given leftover burlap sack to dress himself in. I mean, it's brutal, man. Look at those images. And it was a case study in my political science class because he pointed out then, and this was about the time that MTV was starting to gain popularity and bring on programs that didn't involve music. And he said that's changing the face of music because now we can see the musician and we want to see Dee Snider. We want to see Boy George. We want to see Madonna half naked. The music is irrelevant anymore. It's the entertainment value of it all. What is it we're seeing? What is it that tickles our eyeballs? That's why we can't do more than 5 to 30 seconds with these TikToks and sound bites and such. We just don't have the attention span for it. It's not the bandwidth. We just don't care. If it's not pretty and bouncy and colorful and bright, we're not interested. We're more about the immediate and the sexy. Bridges are neither immediate or sexy. They're required. So we have a problem. We have a number of problems, and they're not going to be solved with the current situation. So when going to the elections over the next 7 months, we should look into the track record of some of these people financially, fiscally. What is it they voted for? What are they proponents for? What are they spending money on? Did they ever along the lines question this boom supersonic insanity? Was any of them involved in the Vertex rail fiasco? Because if North Carolina is going to prosper and progress, we need to stop making bad investments and stop listening to bad advice from people who are not here for the community, but here for power. Because you know it's game over when we have a homelessness services authority here in Wilmington. Because all we've done is open up a bucket to suck up taxpayer money and not have any accountability whatsoever. The guest I'm hoping to have next week, their accountability reports are printed directly to the public and to every member in that state. Every business that's involved has an exact understanding of what happened in the past year, what the money was spent on, what was used, who was touched, the metrics of success, the metrics of the failures, what they've done to correct. It's amazing. And their budget is a lot less than $1 billion a year. And like the Community Violence Action Plan initiated for New Hanover County, it involves partnerships with nonprofits. The difference being the nonprofits are actually being supported. They're not being dumped on. There are solutions to all of this. We just need to be a little less jerkish about it ourselves. We need to learn how to be effective with the resources that we have so that our community can actually grow and become something to be proud of. Some place to call home, some place to be safe. Because a lot of people don't feel safe in their own neighborhoods right now. And the Community Violent Action Plan, for as wonderful as the title sounds and for the components that are in there, its effectiveness has yet to be seen. But it's got a price tag we know everything about. And at the state level, we've already seen other failed issues, that we have other issues that we need to address before they become real problems. Because I really don't want a bridge in our state to fall into a river and hurt people. Let alone the striped bass that is, such an elusive catch for our fishermen and anglers, or bass, or whatever. You get the idea. So we need, to support the community, we need an infrastructure that will support the community. And if we're going to gamble, we shouldn't be gambling our rent. Because people can't get to work if the bridge falls down. So if you want to support your community, make sure that they can get to where they need to go to do what it is they need to do to keep this whole thing spinning. If Snow's goes down, the cost of goods on that island are going to explode. And the people that are getting hurt are the people that are making the engine work. Not the people that own and sell real estate, whom we continue to cater to. But it's going to be the people showing up to make the food, to clear the table, to pour the drinks. They're the ones that are having to pay for parking in the off season. They're the ones getting hurt. And that revenue is doing absolutely nothing to support them in return. And that would be the flip side of the accountability for where this money is going for hiring inept people with no marketable skill into these administrations and bureaucracies willy-nilly. And while the power of the vote is important and a pretty strong power, it's the only one we have. We have no other recourse. Nobody was held accountable for what happened with the Vertex rail failure. The promise of 1,300 jobs should be backed by something. That if this doesn't happen, you pay a penalty. There is some sort of response. That should be true with this $500 million, 1,700 jobs arrangement. That if by 2030 this is not happening, we get to roast your toes or something. There should be accountability in every one of these deals that we make. The Community Violence Action Plan. Whoever signed that thing and proposed it, they should be held to account. Here's your timeline. You gave us 4 years. That's what's in this budget. If at the end of 4 years violence is not eliminated or drastically reduced, you should be held to account. If that grocery store fails before the end of the program, then yeah, you should be held to account. If you are involved in that grocery store, you should most definitely be held to account. But we have no recourse. We have no way of returning this to the manufacturer and saying, I am not satisfied. Right? That's how it works in the private sector. You buy a toaster and you don't like its performance, you take it back. Hey, this doesn't work. I don't like it. Either give me my money back or give me something better. But we can't do that with Vertex Rail, and we can't do that with Boom Supersonic. We're going to be stuck with these losses. And $100 million doesn't dent replacing a bridge. But my God, it's more than what we have now. It's more than what we're going to have. And it's not going to get cheaper in 2030 to build a bridge than it is now. So before we even start getting into the federal thing, let's just look at our local, county, and state issues. Plenty of those to go around. And if Los Angeles alone is spending $1 billion on Homelessness Services Authority, and they still can't figure it out, how is this community violence action plan going to pay out? And I'm working behind the scenes to get some guests that can speak more directly to what's in this plan and get their take as a frontline worker to the effectiveness of something like this. Because I'm pretty sure from other examples, both here in North Carolina and elsewhere, that simply throwing money at a problem isn't going to fix it. Hell, throwing money at the ocean doesn't grow you an island. Right? Those weird Palm Island, World Island things they built, and not going to work. No matter how much money you throw at it, the earth does not care. People made a lot of money, and that island is still sinking into the dirt. And all that money, the stupid amounts of money, could have helped their own people, their own community, but they didn't. Instead, they were allowed to willy-nilly throw money into the ocean trying to grow islands to build resorts on. And it failed. No recourse. So all the people starved and are starving for no result, no purpose, even if it was for some sort of national pride. Hey, look, we built these really cool islands. It does absolutely nothing to serve your community, and that's what we need, are elected leaders and representatives who understand what it is to build a community. I don't think the reality pop star guy who has no marketable skills and is unemployable is going to have any clue as to build a community. He hasn't been part of the community. He's been fleecing and exploiting the community. And anybody who's already been in office and hasn't shown some initiative to bring about solutions without pocketing money, the only power we have is voting. Anybody involved with Vertex Rail should be voted out. Anybody who profited from Vertex Rail, definitely voted out. And anybody involved with this Boom Supersonic should definitely be voted out. So we shouldn't have McCrory in our legislature, and we shouldn't have Cooper anywhere. Those guys should not be involved in office anymore at all, ever. You've shown us who you are and what you're about, and it is not about our community. Therefore, go away. New rule. And the thing is, I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican with your solutions. If you got solutions at work and you can put yourself behind them and actually participate and show some, initiative and some sanity and some logic and some comprehension, I'm all for it. I really don't care. You can wear purple suits and green socks. I don't care. It's being effective. And being effective with the resources we already have. We shouldn't need to go into debt. We have 10.5 million people in this state alone. We should be able to cull the herd and find the right people to put in these places so that we can solve these problems without hemorrhaging millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars on bad ideas. And I bet of those 10.5 million, we can find much better educated people than those who are currently in our legislation and those who have interest in being in legislation. I mean, if the guy from the reality show had managed to, I don't know, graduate high school and got a job as a plumber or a welder or a contractor or something, instead of thinking that the one, because the entertainment industry that's going to be a reality show is going to chew you up and spit you out. You are fodder. The only people that the show cares about are the stars sitting in the little chairs that they're paying thousands and thousands of dollars an hour to sit there and judge you. They don't care about your career. You won your little prize, go home, go away. Quit riding the coattails of something that you kind of sort of did on a reality show, 6-7 years ago? And now you find that you're unemployable and incompetent in every other aspect, and yet the only place you can go is the North Carolina legislature for a job. We should pay attention to this and change the way we vote. And this is the call to the apathetic party, that you understand what's going on, and you are the ones with the power to change it. The right and the left, those two extremes are going to do what they do. The only ones who can sway the middle are going to be the apathetic bastards in the middle. And believe me, I've been with you. I understand it. I understand that entire angst. But the only power we have is the power of vote, and we need to use it. So, we all have our opinions. We all do what we can with what we got. And I am no different. So read what you read, support what you support, do what you do. At least think about it. And we'll see you on the Asylum tomorrow morning right here on the Big Talker. Make sure to bring your coffee because I'm picking some really bad songs today. And we'll see you in the morning.
Keeping Whiteville informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.